wait. I think I just start the webinar. Alright, resume slideshow. Okay, hey guys, welcome back to another IC Markets webinar. And today, before I begin the webinar, remember that everything in this webinar is educational in nature and nothing should be construed as investment or trading advice. Alright, so please remember to do your own due diligence before you guys trade. Alright, then the agenda for today, we will go through high impact news events for the week ahead and also key technical setups to watch out for. Alright, I'm your host for today. My name is Woon Hong and I will be going through with you guys today's pre-market live analysis. Alright. Okay, so firstly, what are the key news events for the week ahead? Okay, so Monday and Tuesday we don't really have any upcoming high impact news, right? But for Wednesday we have AUD and NZD pairs that might be affected by high impact news. Alright, so we have AUD CPI and then we have NZD monetary policy statement. Alright, so usually if you notice, right, AUD and NZD pairs usually work the same way, right? They generally move in the same direction. Okay, so you can expect these two pairs to have volatility on Wednesday itself. Alright, so just be careful for AUD USD and NZD USD in general. Alright, and for Thursday we have FOMC meeting minutes and then we have USD unemployment claims as well. Alright, and lastly for Friday we have GBP Governor Bailey speaking, and then we have Euro news, CAD as well as USD news. Alright, so I think for next week, right, what you have to expect is Thursday and Friday will definitely be days that will be more volatile. Alright, because we have FOMC meeting minutes as well as unemployment claims. Alright, just be careful for that. Alright, wait. Now let's go on to the fun part, which is the chart itself. Okay, so let's take a look at DXY first. Alright, so just remember that you guys can type in any pairs that you want me to go through with you, and then I will go through all the pairs itself. Alright, just give me a moment, let me see. Okay, so for DXY we can see that, oh yes, we are on the daily chart by the way. Okay, so for DXY we can see that price is now already heading downwards towards this level of support right here, right? And why I chose this as my pivot point, right, is because if you scroll to the left, it has a very strong level. If I were to extend it over here, right, it has multiple touch points previously, right, as you can see right here. Okay, so this is what we call our overlap support level over here. So that's why, apart from that, right, we can see that there is also a bullish engulfing candle right here, right? So this level is a good area for DXY to bounce up. So if DXY bounce up as usual, pairs such as euro-dollar, pound-dollar, and gold will tend to drop. Alright, so if DXY bounces up from here, any pairs that ends with USD generally will go in the opposite direction. Alright, so let's see if I'm able to find .8%. Yep, and it also aligns with the 61.8% Fibro projection over here. Alright, so let's label this. I think this should be fine. $61 and 100. Okay, and as well as for the support, right, we have chosen this as a swing low support level right here, which aligns with the 100% Fibro projection level. Alright, then we have the first resistance over here, which is a overlap resistance level. Alright, okay, moving on to euro dollar. Okay, so for euro dollar, oh, price has really moved off from here. Okay, so we can get rid of that. Let's see. I think this is fine. Let me see. Let me refine this a little bit. I think this should be fine. Yeah, okay. So for euro dollar, right, this shall be our pivot point, right, where it is a overlap resistance level, as you can see right here, because we have, it was once a support and it broke, acted as a resistance over here, and now it is also acting as a resistance, right? So this would be quite a difficult level to actually break once price reaches this area over here. Alright, okay, so let's see, right, this shall be our resistance. Okay, I think this is valid. How many pips is this? I think this is 100 pips. Yeah, I think this is fine. Okay, first resistance. Alright, then let me see if I can find a projection. Nope. Okay, shall not use that. Check this out. Let me see. Okay, then I think this should be a nice level. Yeah, then this should be a nice level for our support area over here. First support. Yep. Okay, I think this is fine. Let me see how I can refine this. Okay, this could potentially be my first resistance. I could get rid of this, and this could be my pivot point. I think I might like this better. Yeah, I think I might like this better in a way, right? Because there is a possibility, right, that price might try to take out this high over here, right? Because this level is, if you look at how price is, right, price is bullish right now on the daily time frame, right? Lower high, sorry, higher low, higher high, right? So price might actually take out this high, right, and react to this level to create a higher low to reach for a higher high, right? So I think this might be a better opportunity for us, right? If you place your entry, your sell entry right here, I think most of the time price will tend to be in a drawdown, right? So this might be a safer area to enter. Okay, right, so I think this would be a smarter choice to enter sells. Let's see, yeah, I think this is better. Okay, moving on to GBP USD. Okay, same thing, we set this chart, and what we'll see on the left is we can refer to this area. This is such a nice pivot point. Okay, let me see if I'm able to have a yep, 161.8. Okay, then let's see if we have projection. Okay, 61.8. This is a nice level for our pivot point. Okay, then this shall be our this shall be our first resistance. AUD USD, yes, sure. Okay, give me a second, right? Let me finish this GBP USD. Alright, then let me see, this shall be our first support level over here. Okay, so you could potentially put this as your first resistance, right? There's no right or wrong, right? But I would say if you place this as your first resistance point, let me see, 61 and 178.6. I think this is fine too. Wait, give me a sec. Now I think this is fine. Okay, just be careful, right? Because we have a very bullish candle over here, right? So what we want to see if price, if you were to enter for GBP USD, right, is you want to at least see on the H4 and H1 time frame, right, that price is closing below this resistance level over here, right? My drawing is not that good, okay, but you can see from here, right, the candle closure has to be below this crucial pivot point, right? And this pivot point is referenced from this multi-swing high resistance level over here. Alright, so you might have to be, hello, okay, yeah, sure, okay. Let's see, anything else I will have to cover for. I think this GBP USD trade is quite straightforward, so I wouldn't have to dive too deep. Alright, so sells. Okay, AUD USD. Okay, let's go through AUD USD. Alright, right now now AUD USD is kind of choppy, right? I would say it's within, you can see how it's performing, right? It has been just trading within this range, waiting to break out. Okay, so I would say if you were to enter AUD USD, right? Remember we have CPI news on Wednesday, right? But before that, you can prep yourself to enter sales for AUD USD. Alright, so enter sales would be right here. Yeah, this would be a great pivot point, right? Try to find the most common touch point for AUD USD, right? Which is around right about this area right here. Okay, let me just refine it a little bit. Okay, right, this will be our pivot point, right? The point where there's a possibility that price might reverse from down here. Okay, then as for your stop loss, or rather your first resistance zone, right, I would say this high over here. Okay, how many pips is this? Let me check. I think it's 140. Okay, then what about our first support? Right, I think this level is fine, right? Because ideally what you want to do is to trade within this range, at least before the news release. Alright, so this could be our first support. Okay, then this is, yeah, what we are looking at is a bearish drop from this pivot point. Alright, I think it's pretty straightforward for, let me see if I can, oh, that's nice, 61.8% Fibo retracement level over here. I think this is not bad, right? I don't think we have projection. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. But on the 4-hour time frame, oh wait. Let me see. Daily. Yeah, just be careful for AUD USD trade. I believe for this trade, right? There could be a possibility, right? Because if you look at H4 has already broken past these highs, trying to break past these highs, right? I would say if price were to, if you look at how AUD USD is, right? Right, we already broken through. One temporary trade that you could take, right, is essentially this area over here, right? If price were to come back down here, you can enter. Wait, let me just mark this out for a little bit, right? I would say there is a potential for short-term buys, right about here, to target to this pivot point. But if you look at the risk to reward ratio, I believe it's not very worth it, right? Okay, so I would generally not enter this kind of trade, okay, when the risk to reward ratio is not ideal. Alright, so let's see how this H4 candle closes. Right, let me see. Yeah, I think let's stick to daily and see how this plays out. This very simple trade. See how this plays out. Okay. Let's go to US 500. Okay. Wow. Right here, we can already see that we have a strong market opportunity for US 500. Previously, I marked this zone out, like a very casual zone, right? Right. Just simply taking all the common touch points, right? You can see how price has reacted along all these touch points. Then I drew a box, right? Okay, so generally when you are practicing, right, I'll suggest to draw boxes, okay, instead of lines, okay, because boxes can help you to practice your discipline and help you see the areas clearer. Alright, so this would be a nice pivot point, right? You can already see how there is a rejection candle of this pivot point level over here, right? So I would say this could act as our first support. And our resistance point is ideally, let me see, I think this might be our first obstacle over here, right? This is already the all-time high, but this is our first obstacle over here that we need to be careful of. Okay, although I hope that S&P breaks past this point to at least go to this resistance level over here, right? Let me see. Yeah, the fit don't line up with any of these points surprisingly, right? But I think this should be a simple enough trade. Let me see how it reacts on the H4. Okay, H4 looks like it might still be bearish, right? Because let me see, H1, yep, you can see how price reacts here. Okay, because you can see how price reacted off this resistance level, this pullback resistance level, so there is a possibility for it to continue going downwards, right? So you might have to be careful for that. Okay, even though daily looks like a very nice rejection candle, but if you go to H1, you can clearly see that there is a possibility that it might continue to at least fall to this let me see, I think it might at least fall to this level over here. Yeah, because if you realize for index, right, this S&P 500 index, etc., right, they tend to try and fill up the gaps over here, right? Some people do this thing called gap trading, right? That they believe price will tend to fill up the gap that was left behind, right? You can see price previously has not tapped this gap at all, right? So there is a possibility that price might continue to fall at least to this level over here, and then we will have a bounce up. Okay, so might have to be careful for that. Even though daily looks so nice, right? But I would say this area is something to watch out for. Alright. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, you can read more on this thing called gap trading, right? GAP. Oh. Yeah, gap trading, yeah. Why is this? Why does this look so weird? Oh. Okay, yeah, gap trading. Okay, you can find out more from this through videos and other resources as well. Alright, so let's move on. Any other pairs that you guys want me to go through with you? But for S&P 500, right, generally if price stays above this pivot point, okay, most of the time it will try to improve from here, right? I believe the markets are recovering, right, from the previous April lows, right? Remember, this low was created due to the tariffs, right? But of course, you will have to be careful, because there is a so-called 90 days pause, right? So July is the date where you have to see how price reacts from there. So I feel that now is still an uncertain period where a lot of people are still deciding whether to buy or whether to sell, right? But of course right now it's neutral, and in the long run it's important to always at least be in the markets so that you can not be affected by your emotions, right? Okay, let's see what other news we have. Oh, we have NZD news. Okay, so since we have NZD news, let's go through NZD as well. All right, so right here I think it's pretty straightforward that this is our pivot point, right? Same thing as AUD USD. You see how AUD USD and NZD USD moves, right? Pretty similarly. Okay, so it's impossible to have one buy and one sell, right? Generally you want to have them be have the same setup. Okay, so right here will be I would say this is a nice sell opportunity for NZD USD. Alright, you're starting off the multi-swing high with level. Okay, then for your support is this overlap support level over here. Let me see if there's nope. Okay, $61.8. Okay, I think this is fine. Okay, very simple trade, I feel, right? Reacting off the pivot point and the 61.8% Fibo retracement level. Oh wait, we can't use this anymore because price has already tapped this area. Okay, so let's see. Actually, we can still keep it there, right? Let's see how price would react off the 61.8% retracement level over here. Alright, then let's go through a few more majors. Okay, this is our pivot point. Okay, for USD JPY, right? This will be a nice pivot point, and this pivot point is identified. I will say I'll draw a level right here. Okay, previously remember what I mentioned, instead of drawing a line, right, you can generally draw a box, right, to signify that you identify this area, not just this specific price point, but this area that price might react to. Okay, so you can see right here, and then we also have our first support level, right? Let me see. Yeah, I think we can place it right here because it aligns with this swing low support level over here. Okay, let me see. Let me go through this. It should be bottom. Labels bottom. Okay, yes, right here you can see clearly. Okay, we have a pivot point that aligns with this 78%, 78.6% Fibo projection, and then we have a support that aligns with the 100% Fibo projection, as well as the 127.2% Fibo extension level over here. Okay, so this is what I would say pretty much so far. Okay, so far, if price were to form like this, right? If price were to form a inverse Nike tick, right, I would say you can use the extension, but as of now you won't be able to use the extension level over here. But what you might be able to do, let me see. Oh yes, what you might be able to do is, because price has already made a initial, is starting to form a zigzag pattern, and one of the rules to expansion is that, let's say once this area, right, this area has to go past 50%, right, of the first leg, right? So this is already completed, so you could predict a movement downwards here, right? But in that case, I think, let's see if there is any expansion. Yeah, negative 27.2% expansion level over here, which aligns with the 100% fever projection, right? So I would say if price were to come down to this first support level, it's a good opportunity for buys, right? But of course, let's first see how it will react to this pivot point over here. All right, generally if you look at USD JPY, you can see right here is in a bearish state, so there is a possibility that it might break this pivot point to go to this first support, so please be careful for that. All right, yeah, this is ideally what I'm looking at. The first support level is, I would say, is a stronger level to buy at. Right, then if you might ask, where should you place your stop loss, I would say place your stop loss right about this level over here. Oh, you can use the negative 61.8 is too far, right? But I would say this level could be used as your stop loss level over here. I think if you place this, let's say you were to enter a buy trade over here, stop loss, wow, it's still pretty huge. But this is ideally a swing trade, so you are looking more of opportunity rather than the number of pips. Okay, so let's see how this actually plays out. Yeah, okay, I think USD JPY has a pretty good opportunity, right, for us. Alright, then let's take a look at USD CHF. Okay, let's reset this a little bit. Okay, USD CHF so far, I think I might pass on USD CHF. Wow, this is 2011's lows, right? But so far I think USD CHF is not doing well, right? Let me see. Yeah, this will be our, if we were to trade this, right, this would be our first support, which is a swing low support level right here. And as for our, this shall be our pivot point, right? And I would say you can see how this is not, ideally not a nice trade, right? If you were to put here as our first resistance, is a little bit too far, right? I think, okay, I think this is more realistic in a sense. Let me see. Yeah, I think this is fine. First resistance, okay, let's see. Let me see. Yeah, for USD CHF, I don't really see much opportunities for this, just this bounce off this pivot point, right? Apart from that, not really a fan of USD CHF. Okay, let's move on to USD CAD. Okay, so USD CAD is pretty interesting over here, right? You can see, let me see if how it might react to 161.8. Okay, you can see how USD CAD is created. I think this was, yeah, it created an all-time high previously. Alright, yeah, earlier this year, right? But afterwards it started to fall downwards, right? Because the XY has been falling all the way. Okay, so you can see this, why I've chosen this as our pivot point, because of how this overlap support level aligns with this 161.8% Fibo extension level. Alright, so generally once you see price create broke this low, right, where is the next level that it might extend to, right? So this pivot point will be a point where price would have will face an obstacle and it will tend to bounce up from here, right? I would say it will bounce up and go to at least this level over here, right? Because if it were to really be in a downtrend, what you'll do is, right, low, lower high, low, lower high, low. What is this? Okay. Yep, you can see right here, generally, if it were to be in a downtrend, let me draw this again. Low, low high, low, high, and low. Okay, so what we want to see is a bounce of this pivot point to at least this 1.3763 area. Alright, that is our target. And I would say this would be a nicer resistance point over here. Yeah. Okay, this is for USD CAD. Alright, then we covered AUD USD and NZD USD as well. Okay, let's move on to oil. Alright, let's look at oil. Right here. Okay, I would say this area for oil is a pretty good. Let me just find the proper. Okay. Yes, this is our pivot point. Alright. This is our overlap resistance, referring to all these common touch points previously, right? And this will be our pivot point. And as for our first resistance, right, we will place our first resistance at this high right here, right? So far, oil has been struggling to, after the break past this, after the break of these lows, right, it has been struggling to break past the 65 mark for the past 1 month, more than a month, right? So I'm hoping that price would, let's see. Right, let's see how price will react at this 65 mark. If not, it will continue to hover below. Alright, so this will be our first resistance. Alright, then this will be our first support. Yep, I think this is fine. Okay, let's see. Can we find any? Here. Has price gone at least 50%? I don't think so, right? Nope. Okay, then we can't use. Let's see. 100%. Okay, I think this is fine. 61.8. Alright, we have a nice pivot point which aligns with the 61.8% Fibo retracement as well as the 100% Fibo projection over here, right? So I would say sadly we might not be able to see oil breaking past the 65 mark, right? 65 per barrel, right? So let's actually monitor how price reacts here, because I feel that if price stays below 65, we might be able to see a consolidation area all the way for at least until the next OPEC meeting, right? So yeah, you have to be careful for that. I would say yeah, this whole area, right? There is a chance that there will be consolidation if price were to stay below $65 per barrel. Alright, then let's move on to gold. Alright, let's see. Wow, gold generally is in a very strong uptrend. Makes me feel like selling over here, but as they say, don't go against gold. This is such a nice sell area. Sadly, let me see. Yeah, I think this might be actually a nice sell area, because we have already broken past this area over here. So there might be a possibility that price might continue to react off this area and go downwards. Price might actually be bearish earlier, I think, within this area, right? Because of this strong level of bearish engulfing candle over here, right? But of course, let's see how price reacts. Okay, let me see. Okay, if price do come above, let me see what is the 127.2. Yeah, I would say if price were to come up here, right, creating a Nike tick, then what we can expect is for price to react to this 127.2% Fibo extension level, right? This is our first resistance point. Okay, I would say this is our first resistance point. And as for our support, well, our support level has to be quite I think I'll pick this as our first support level. Well, this first support level is a lot of pips. Yeah, but if we can actually catch the sell, I think it will be a good opportunity, right? But let's see, because gold, I think generally, right, even though we might see a nice bounce for DXY, if there is a nice bounce for DXY, then gold will have a strong sell-off, right? But if not, then we might see gold continuing to rally. That's my opinion on gold. Okay, let's maybe go through US 30. Oh, this is a nice trade. Okay, I like this pivot point over here. Okay, I'm choosing this pivot point as a pullback support level. Alright, then I think it aligns with the, let me see. Wow, not really. If I were to extend this, Okay, if I were to extend this, it aligns with the 23.6% feeble retracement. And as for our stop loss, or rather, I would say our this is fine. First support level will be right here. Okay, generally US 30 I think is recovering, right? The Dow Jones, S&P 500, Nasdaq, right? They are all recovering. So I would say I'll stick to the bullish bias for now, right? You can see how there is a strong rejection week over here. So let's stick to our bullish bias. All right, wait, let me see. 3.6. Okay, I think this is fine. Yep. I think this is my sentiment on US 30. Generally for in the indices as well as stocks, I would say right now is a bullish market recovery, but there is still uncertainty all the way until I would say end of June or start of July. So just be careful for that. Alright. Of course, what I want to see is for them to ultimately reach this high over here, right? But let's see. Okay, let's cover the last indices. You can see right here, all the indices are recovering, right? Especially for Germany, the 40, right? Even though I think it's at its all-time high already, right? This is a pivot point. Let's see. I think this is fine. Okay, I think this shall be our Germany 40 trade, right? But price has already bounced off this pivot point, right? So I would say wait for the retest, right? Because there will definitely be a retest, right? So bounce off, right? Wait for it to test this level again, right? If it tests this level, okay, and it stays above this pivot point, then you can enter buys. But for now, price is already I would say price is a bit too high from our entry level, so you will have to be patient enough to wait out for Germany 40, as it's the same for US 30 and okay, S&P not so. S&P you have to monitor for a little bit, right? But for the rest, let's see, wait, S&P. I think this is more valid. Okay, 23.6 and 50. 23.6. Yeah, I think this is nicer. Okay, let's move on to our last pair, which is BTC USD. Wow, this is so complicated. Okay, let me just break it down a little bit, because BTC USD has recently just broke the all-time high, right, at 112, right? As of right now, I would say BTC USD is at a level where I think for the US, right, they are very pro crypto right now, right? You can read up on it, but they are doing tax billing, etc., right? And they are very pro crypto. That's why there are so many movements for BTC as of right now. Okay, so this is our pivot point, and as for our support level, right, I'll say is this low over here. I wouldn't put it too far. I wouldn't put it at 98, right? I would say 100k, right? That would be the psychological level, right? What we call psychological level. Then of course we have our good old swing high resistance level over here. Okay, if you were to draw your fib, you can see I think it lines up with the 61.8. Yeah, 61.8% FIBO retracement level. All right, then let me see. Yeah, I think this is a clear enough trade. I think right now BTC USD is on a good level to continue even higher, right? This is just the start. But of course I wouldn't want it to come all the way down again, right? Generally I would say this will be a good opportunity for people who are in the markets. All right, yeah, to continue the bullish run for BTC USD. Okay, so okay, let's go through ETH. All right, let's see. Okay, let's go through this. Okay, I would say for ETH, right, this is a nice opportunity for buys. Because right now we are in the pro crypto scene, so I would tend to stay off sells. Okay, but this is what I'm looking at for ETH, right? I'm looking at it for it to come at least to this level over here. Right, then as for our support, this is where I'm looking at. Right, this is our pivot, okay? Then this is our resistance. So just trading within these zones, let's see how this plays out. Because why I chose this as my pivot point, because it is quite clear that if price already had a bullish run, right? If price were to come here, what I'm looking at is for it to break out of this area, right? So what I want to capture is capture price within this zone, right? So that it can rise up at least to target the 3000 levels again. Because I believe for ETH, right, there is so much more recovery to do, right? If you look at Bitcoin, right, you really recovered from 74k. The lows were 74k, right, and it already recovered so strongly. But what about ETH, right? I'm waiting for it to have a stronger recovery in the markets. Okay, let's see if I were to draw the fib. Okay, the only thing that lines up is the first support level. All right, then this is our bullish run. Okay, this, wait, let me see, bullish, okay, yeah, okay. I think that's about it for crypto. We covered all the majors, we covered commodities, oil and gold. We also covered these three indices. Okay, so far I think it's so good, right? We have all the setups that we need for the week ahead. I think the one that we have to really notice is Thursdays and Fridays, right? Alright, so thank you guys for joining in today's session, pre-markets, a live analysis again. Yeah, thank you for joining in and making it engaging for myself. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Do stay safe and trade safe. Alright, take care and bye bye.